Well, I'm very happy to be here. First of all, I had a wonderful week being in Spain. Well, I have practiced medicine for many years in California with many Spanish-speaking patients. And one of the biggest problems we have is in America is an obesity epidemic. And what I found over the years, it's very difficult to get people to change by scolding them or lecturing them and saying, oh, you must change your habits, you must change your diet, you must exercise more. It doesn't work. They don't change. So in 2011, the New York Times published an article about Kristen Neff's research. And her research showed that when you treat people with kindness and compassion and encouragement, that they are much more likely to make changes. And I already had a sense that this was true just from my own practice, that if I tried to motivate myself to change with criticism or harshness, that it usually did not work. But if I was kind and permissive and forgiving, then I could make changes. So now I had evidence that this was actually proven in research. So I immediately got her book, and I read her book, and I started implementing the self-compassion practices in my life. And then I started to work with my patients a little differently, more, and show them, here, look, you know, if you are kinder and more compassionate to yourself, you're much more likely to treat yourself like you would treat someone else that you love, rather than trying to change because you think you're bad. So I loved her book, I loved her work and her research, and then I got Christopher Germer's book, and that was even expanded my practice and my understanding even better. So the other area where it has been so important for me is in the area of taking care of myself when I'm interacting with people who are suffering, who are sick. And many times in my career I have experienced we call burnout or empathy fatigue. And so the first exercise, motivating ourselves with compassion, huge for me, helping patients and myself. But the other was learning to breathe the giving and receiving compassion, learning how to take care of myself while listening to a suffering person helped me so much. I wish I learned it the very first day of medical school, and I wish it was taught to every psychologist, resident, student, before we start helping other people, that we learn this giving and receiving compassion with equanimity. I love the metaphor they use, that it's like learning to breathe underwater, you know, with a snorkel, because I like snorkeling. I like it. So, and that's actually what it feels like when you're with suffering people and you have this ability to offer yourself and them kindness without having to leave. You know, the usual strategies for burnout are that, you know, you take a vacation, you get a massage, you go take a walk, but all of that means that you can't do it on the spot when you're with the person. So that's why this practice is so different and so powerful and so helpful. So those are some areas where it's really helped me professionally, and I think could help a lot of physicians and nurses to, you know, have more resilience and also more tools to offer people to make healthy changes. That's a very big question, but I think first of all, showing them that you care, that you're not going to criticize them or, you know, they always come in, they feel so guilty, you know, oh, Beth, I failed my diet again, I didn't lose weight, or my diabetes is not better. And you just say, it's okay, you know, I still care about you, let's work together. You know, what would you do if this, how would you treat your child? You know, how would you treat someone you love? And that's one of the first exercise in mindful self-compassion, is how would you treat a friend? How do you treat yourself? And so little by little, poco a poco, you know, we start to just offer acceptance, non-judgment, and then the person feels safe and they start to open up, and then hopefully you can offer them, you know, soothing touch, self-compassion break, and learning that they are worthy of love and compassion. But it, you know, it takes time. But the main thing is helping people understand that when you yell at yourself, when you criticize yourself, that your physiology actually goes into stress mode. And none of us can function well when we have stress physiology operating. So people don't realize this. You know, this research is very helpful, that shows that when we're self-critical, that our body actually responds like we're being threatened, and that you can't make good choices when you're in that physiologic state. So to calm yourself, to be kind to yourself, then it's easier to start to see, oh, I have other choices, because your nervous system and your brain is actually functioning in a more open way.
Very interested in this.
Yeah, I'm writing a book. The working title, not for sure, but the working title is The Dharma of Mbsr. I'm a certified Mbsr teacher on the faculty at UMass Center for Mindfulness. And I started to offer a workshop about the Buddhist foundations of Mbsr, because as mindfulness has become more popular, people are coming to it that don't know that it even has Buddhist foundations, that these teachings are very ancient and that they've been used for thousands of years. This isn't a new fad, a new thing. And so when I started to teach this workshop, people were very interested in finding out what the underpinnings were, that it was created by someone who practiced Buddhist practices and went on retreats and knew a lot about the classical teachings. So then a publisher contacted me and said, would you write a book about your work, what you teach in your workshop? So what I do is I take the reader through the journey of an 8-week MBSR class, and each week I talk about what some of the core Buddhist teachings that are implicit, not explicitly stated, but implicit in the class, the MBSR class. So, for example, in the first week, first chapter of the book, we talk about what a first week MBSR class looks like, who might attend, what their problems are, and then we talk about what is the Buddhist teaching in this class. The first noble truth, for example, the truth that suffering is part of life. And so that's basically the structure and the way the book will flow, is taking the reader through an MBSR class, and each week showing one of the foundational practices of mindfulness. For example, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of thoughts and emotions that the Buddha taught, and very similar in different language that we use in the MBSR classroom. So my hope is that for people who are interested, not everybody is interested in this, and you don't need to be interested in it, but there are some people who would like to know, how do these two things, how does the modern mindfulness and the ancient mindfulness, how do they inform each other? How is it expressed in a modern way?